mom got a call from the doctor to say that she must come in because dad is unresponsive. So that was 4 days post-surgery. And so she asked, because we've noticed that he wasn't eating or the food was left standing, she asked him, why is he not being fed? Because whenever we go there, the food is just sitting there. And then the doctor explained to her that since dad is a diabetic, um, they could not just give him any food. He had to wait for the dietitian who was on leave, who was only going to be back on the 22nd of March. So mom suggested that she buy something like a shake, the nutritional shake, for diabetic to try and feed dad, and the doctor agreed to that, and so that is what we did on the 22nd. But we could see that he was fast becoming weaker, because obviously the shake didn't do what an IV feed proper nutrition could have done. And so on the 22nd, we went there early because the doctor who found mom that they actually gave her permission to come in anytime until the 22nd, when the dietitian was on duty to prescribe a diet. So on the 22nd, the morning of the 22nd, we happened to find the doctors doing their rounds. Bearing in mind, we've never seen the doctors. The nurses relayed to us whatever we needed to know, which was very little. But anyways, and so I asked this the one female doctor, why is it that my dad is not being fed? This is the 8th day. The 22nd was the 8th day. And we have not seen. We are doing the best that we can, obviously, as a family, but he needs what he needs because he's diabetic. And she said, well, the IV feeds cost 2,000 rand a bag. And it's very expensive. They're just a district hospital. And so that is something they don't offer their patients. And so I asked her, so what do you do? Patient is in a coma at your facility. How do you feed that person? Does he just starve, or does he just waste away and die? What do you do? And I don't think she answered that question, because I cannot recall her answering that question. But anyways, and the words that came from her shocked me and my mom that morning, Sandy and David, because she said, look, your dad is terminally ill. Wow, we never knew my dad was terminally ill. Nobody conveyed that to us. Nobody spoke to us about that. So it just came by the way that my dad was terminally ill. And so I asked her, so does this mean because he's terminally ill, he does not qualify to be fed in the society? She said, no, that's not what she's saying. They've tried to feed him until the 19th. And according to her, food would not make any difference to his condition. Almost like he's dying. So he's feeding him. That was the message that was conveyed. If you take off all the trimmings, that is basically what she said to us that morning. And long story short, my dad passed away on the 28th of March. And my mom found him dead. When she came for the visit, she went to his bed, she called out his name, there was no response. And that is when the nurse noticed that she was struggling to get there. They asked her to leave, and that is how it was discovered that he had passed on. And so we lodged a complaint with the Department of Health. I did it personally on their website, the Department of Health's website. I got no response from them. And then I decided to escalate my complaint. And so I sent an email to Dr. Keith Kluter. And the complaint also went via the parliamentary committee for the health department. And so they had to investigate. But the question here is, gentlemen, how do you lay a complaint about the hospital and ask the hospital to investigate the complaint against them? Obviously, they are not going to be truthful. And so on the 10th of June, when we went to go and hear the outcome of the investigation, I was disgusted, to say the least. I was utterly disgusted at the reasons that they gave as to why my dad was not fed for over 300 hours in their care, why alternative feeding methods were not explored, and why my dad was told to clean himself because he has two hands. And the reasons that they gave was so staggering. The CEO, who did most of the talking, he gave 3 reasons why my dad was not being fed after the 4th day post-surgery. He felt that it was the humane thing to do. They did the humane thing because my dad was suffering, he was in a lot of pain. And because he was terminally ill, he did not qualify to be transported to Groot Schuur, where he could have received intravenous feeding because he was terminal. And the other reason was that it would have been unreasonable, that was his word, it would have been unreasonable to expect the nurses to sit and feed my dad 3 meals a day because they were understaffed and they were overburdened with patients. Yet the figures on the board did not speak, because he had a graph there and he explained to me why they were understaffed and overburdened. And to me, it didn't make sense because it was almost as if though there were 1 nurse per patient. And in any event, and so because I hold the belief that they starved him because, I don't know if it was because he was terminal, but the question is, gentlemen, and this is what I asked them, what if my dad, because he was valiantly fighting to stay alive, you know, because he was conscious all the time, and whenever we went there, he would say he's hungry or he's thirsty. So clearly he needed feeding. And so to me, it was like he was fighting, and I asked the CEO, what if my dad had to have stayed alive for 30 days, for 20 days, even longer? What if he stayed on? What if he could fight that long? Would you still maintain your stance that food does not matter? And we know, gentlemen, how important nutrition is to the diabetic body. No matter in what condition it is, in my opinion. Food is paramount. The proper nutrition to that patient is so important. But they failed my father. They failed him miserably. They actually allowed him to die quicker. And that is what I told them. That is what I believe. You allowed my dad to die at a faster pace because you felt he was terminally ill. He wouldn't live anyway. So let's starve him so he can die quicker. You know, and I will not change my mind on that because fortunately we went there every day and we saw this. On the morning of the 22nd, his blood sugar level dropped to 0. So how do you get there in the confines of a controlled environment where he should be monitored, being as ill as he was? He should have been monitored. So yes, but our case is still being heard. Our case is still being investigated. I will not stop because my dad is no longer there. But we need to be a voice for those who are there now. And from the comments, we can see that it is still happening.
Mm.
So I'm here tonight because I want to give my dad a voice. I want to give your moms a voice. I want to give somebody else's beloved a voice
Mm-mm.
so that things can change. Because I think
Mm-mm.
we deserve better. Our families
Indeed.
deserve better.
Yes, and I
So
agree
yeah,
with
that
you.
is
I agree with you
yes.
there, Janine. And I think when you spoke now, I didn't know David's mother also passed away in the hospital, and it was the same circumstances because me and David are very good friends. It's only when I put the article out there and when you contacted me that I realized, but there's more people out there. And do you know, since last week when we posted it, a lot of people messaged me. My phone was busy since last week up till now. I even sent
Wow.
emails, people telling me the same. One of the things that I've mentioned to you guys as well, when family go and look for their loved ones, the staff don't know where they are. And in
Mm,
some cases, the security guards had to go find inside the building where the person has been placed. And when you
yes.
get there, the person is unsupervised. What you've
Correct.
mentioned,
Yes.
I saw it with my own eyes where you said nobody fed your father. We came there to my
Yes.
mother's bed where she was lying, and nobody gave her food for. She went in the Tuesday night and she passed away the Sunday night. Uh, she went so, sy het so vinnig agteruit gegaan that
Mm.
my
Mm,
mother was still okay. The Tuesday when we took her, she was still okay. It started at home
yes.
actually, and I just touch on this point. When the ambulance came to come and fetch her, I was there, my father was there, my brothers and my sisters were there, and I saw how this man that took my mother and we helped him. He manhandled her. My mother was shouting, Aina, Aina. And for me, I had to tell him, look, here, sir, let us do it because you're hurting my mother. My mother is in pain. And we as the
Mm.
Mm,
family had to take care of my brothers, everybody was there. We had to load her, we had to get some of the neighbors to help us to load her into the van because he didn't know what he was
wow.
doing. And for that reason, I wasn't gonna worry with this thing anymore because my mother is not here anymore. But like you've mentioned, there's other people in the hospital at this present moment that's experiencing the same thing. I was just gonna
Yes.
leave it. I wrote an article about it. I was gonna leave it, but we need to talk about this. David, just tell us more about your
Absolutely.
story, David.
Yeah. So, good evening, everyone. So, I'm listening now to Janine, and the point that you brought up, Janine, is very close though. Um, Also, my mom was a diabetic. She was admitted to the hospital for a constipation issue that she had. That was the initial diagnosis. She also had one of her toes had a bit of an infection, which my sisters at the time was treating. But of course, we had to get to the hospital, which was one of the things. When we got to the hospital and she was admitted initially for the stomach problem and the toe, um, what concerned me um, the most, because my sister had to sit with her almost 12 hours in emergency waiting for doctors and all of the process to go through processing the patient, etc. Um, the environment of the emergency room was horrific. I mean, it's a district hospital, so we got vehicle accident people. You've got gangsters that's been stabbed. You've got abuse people. You've got drunk people. A lot of stuff, and people was lying on the floor, blood all over the place. Some people in urine, some
Wow.
people in feces. So the actual IC, not ICU, I would say the emergency part of the hospital um, was the cause of one of the things my mom had to go through. So she was admitted, she had the drip put on, and this drip was put into both arms because of being a diabetic, etc., etc. Those drips, once it was changed, because of that environment in the emergency room or ICU area, caused infections in the hands. And those infections caused her to get some sort of a blood infection. Or that's what we were
Wow.
told. Um, and then we were told then after that she had to get hand surgery because of those infections. And There was nothing at Mitchell's Plain Hospital. There was no hand surgeons and specialists and things like that. So we had to get sent to Grootskeer. In that time, all of these things are happening. We've been visiting her in and out all the time. And then we were advised that she was going to be admitted to Grootskeer for hand surgery to be action. And they were going to contact us, the hospital. We got contacted I can't remember the dates. It's been over 3 weeks that she was in and out of the hospital, and then the one day we got called. My sisters got called to say at 7 o'clock in the morning, my mom's been moved to Grootskeer for the hand surgery. So we said, okay, cool. We're gonna get through to Mitchell's Plain district to pick her up or travel with her to the Grootskeer to go do the thing. But she was already at Grootskeer. She was moved at 2 o'clock in the morning by the hospital without informing us. They informed us at 7 o'clock the next morning. And when we got to Grootskeer the following morning, or just after 7, rushing through there, they tried to find my mother at Grootskeer. My partner and my sister had to actually literally walk the hospital to go find where my mother was. No one knew. And eventually, we found my mother sitting on a plastic chair with a gown on, that hospital gowns, that things that tie up behind you. In pain, no water, no food, no blankets. And she was, when I saw her, I thought, when you start getting emotional and you get to go through different types of emotions. You get angry and you get upset and you want to fight with people and explode and so on. I realized that we needed to keep calm and get my mother out of there. What the hospital told us at that time, that we can't just take her. We have to sign a consent form, which we did. We filled out the form because we were not going to allow my mom to go back in an ambulance, which they could not even confirm how long it will take to get an ambulance there. So she could have been sitting there for another 12 hours, for all you know. So we took her in my personal car. We took her back to Mitchell's Plain Hospital. At Mitchell's Plain Hospital, we had quite a few of the senior nurses or sisters that was quite good at what they were doing. They were very forthcoming, let me put it like that. We took my personal number, my sister's number. One of the doctors I treated her also took the number to contact us on the status of her progress, etc., and so on. When we went there on one of our visits, we realized my mom was going to be discharged. She was going to be discharged on one of the visits. And we decided, okay, cool, let's get everything together. My sisters went to go get the clothes at home, came back. She was in the wheelchair, out of the bed, in the wheelchair, ready to be discharged. And she went into a fit, or she sort of, I thought she was going to die in that wheelchair when I saw it happening. And I told the sister, listen, we can't look after my mom if this is what's going to happen now. Because here's my mom's half fainting, like a fit happened or something like that, man.
Wow.
We then said, okay, she must stay back, she must stay at the hospital. We're not going to discharge her. What we found out was that her blood sugar level, like you said, Janine, went to 0 at that point. Then we decided, okay, she must stay in the hospital and get more care, etc. Also, in that time, over the times we visited her, we saw that she was vomiting.
Yes.
Brown kernels, something like that. And when we advised the senior sister of this, she told us what they call brown coffee, which is some sort of medical term that they use for severe issues in your intestines. And that was when they told us they're going to have to do a scope. And that was 2 days before the first year. So they did the scope. And this time there was an ulcer or something went wrong inside it. And we left there. So on the first we went to go visit again. We left. It was the afternoon. And then we got a call later on the evening that we have to come in, me and my sisters. They have to come and see. Because now she's on pipes and a whole lot of things plugged into her, and she was in the ICU. And at that point I realized that this is the last. I realized that, and I knew it was happening. In all of this time, all of these things happened, all of the medical things were done, doctors were contacting us, we contacted the hospital management about the manner of how the people were being processed, if you want to put it like that, through their system. And we couldn't get hold of the hospital manager. We had to speak to the assistant and to one of the sisters that was in charge. And that, to me, was where I realized that we've got a big problem in not only just Went District. We've got the same problem in all of the government hospitals, you want to put it like that. Where people, where the people, the actual patients who come there for help is being, I wouldn't say they're being used as fodder for whatever reason, but they're not being humanely treated. They're not being humanely treated.
Yes.
The families aren't being kept in the loop with regards to what is happening. The doctors, when they change shifts, don't look at the folders of what the previous doctor has done. We've been told by one doctor, this is the problem. Then the next shift doctor ends up and tells us it's a different problem. My partner's got a bit of a knowledge on medical things, and she looked at the folders and went through it. And she had to tell some of the doctors that, listen, but you can't be doing this type of treatment when the patient's diabetic, etc., and this and this. And they didn't know. So what I want to say is basically there is a lack of communication between
Absolutely
the doctors firstly, between themselves when they diagnose a patient. There is a lack of communication to the families of statuses of the actual patients, and not as big a issue that I've got, but I do find it to be a very irritating thing, is that hospital security staff is, I don't know whether it's they under the impression that they work at the hospital as security staff, that they start knowing that when a person comes in with a stab wound or a car accident or a fit, that they know how urgent it is at that point. So from my point of view, what I would like to convey to your viewers then is that when you have to go to a public hospital, you need to make sure that your communication channel is as tight as possible with not only the doctors, but as well as with the nurses, the sisters, the hospital management. Everybody should be on the same page when you give them a call.
Yeah.
And not just say, there's a call, we're going to put you on hold, or we're going to, people get lost like it. So people hang up and then they don't do anything. You know what I'm saying? But from my point of view is, when you are going to go to a public hospital, make sure your communication channel open. Be as people can say, don't be for para, don't force yourself on them. It's not about forcing yourself on the people, man. The hospital is there to help people.
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
to
Yes.
shun people, not to shun
Yeah.
people away, and to like Janine said, to let people die. Look, that's
Mm-mm.
basically literally what's happening. They let people die
That's
Mm.
right.
instead of actually helping the people
Mm.
and getting a recovery rate. I'm sure if we have to look at statistics and you look at the mortality rate of patients at district hospitals, it's probably in the thousands.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I think should be done is that um, when patients are admitted to hospital, a set process needs to be put in place where a more clear channel of communication is put together so that if anything happens at any time with the patient, uh, a sort of an alert or a sort of a SMS or a sort of a WhatsApp must be sent to the family or to
Yeah.
Absolutely.
whoever is responsible for that patient at the point in time from a family
Mm.
perspective.
Mm-mm.
You know, um, yeah. So yeah, it was a difficult situation. It was hard so to see, um,
Mm-mm.
not just my mom,
Lovely.
but other people also in that ward
Yes.
that would come in and not leave. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, that's my viewpoint on this whole situation, Stan.
Okay.
Um,
I just want to read one
David?
of the comments quickly. I want to give over to you guys, Nana. I just want to read. Zion wrote here. My mom also died at the hospital. No one contacted us to let us know my mom passed away. My sister phoned to my mom's phone and it was just ringing. Then she phoned the hospital and the nurse who answered asked her, "Did no one contact you about your mom?" My sister said no. Then the nurse said, "Someone will phone you back, but prepare yourself. The worst. How the hell, man?" I think you know what I'm gonna give you
Wow.
guys now. I think there is no professionalism, and I'll be honest with you. In the hospital, you've mentioned your father didn't eat within a time period he was there. He was starved. My mother was in so much pain, so we asked the sister, can't you guys move her because you need to also rotate their body so that there can be a flow.
Yes.
I mean, blood.
Yes.
So she was just laying there, and we told the sister, can we move her? No, 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 no. We will do it. And these two sisters coming there, and my mother was still, she could still, sense pain in it. And she would still tell them, it is so. And these people didn't
Mm.
understand what she was saying. I was sitting there, me and my brother, and they were moving her around, but you can see they were also manhandling her. And I told the sister, why are
Yes.
you doing this? And she was just looking at me. And I know she was talking about me because I know a little bit, of course. And then she was talking to a colleague, and I got so upset. But the thing is this, I have complained to people, but nobody listened to me. The head sister came there the Sunday. My mother passed away just so after 5. And she chased us out of the room while we were mourning our mother. And my family is there to prove that. And I said to her, but sister, yeah, I don't care, go wait, one at a time. I said, but sister, we have family. We want to do this as a
Mm.
family. There was nobody in the room. And for that reason, we left, but before we left, we still had to ask him what happens now because we want the mother
Mm.
to to go to the morgue and so that we can do the final arrangements. I tell you, it was a nightmare. The one sister was sitting there, and she was telling me, "We will call you. Go." And that is a professionalism. I come from an
mm,
environment
Mm.
where I know when you speak to clients, you need to present yourself properly. And I think that is the thing that is missing there. And we're not saying the hospital must be thrown down. We're just saying, look at this matters because there's people that are
mm,
really struggling. I saw Carte
mm,
Blanche had a documentary, not a documentary, but they had a episode of the hospital on Sunday. And wow, it was nice. But that was not what we experienced. That
mm,
was not what we experienced.
Mm.
We
mm,
had the
Yes.
experience of hell, you know. Janine,
mm,
you wanted to say something earlier on?
Yes, yes. I wanted to ask David. David, you mentioned that they said your mom had an ulcer, developed an ulcer.
mm.
Was she ever known to have suffered from ulcers prior to going into
No,
the
no,
hospital?
no, not at all, not
Because
at all.
that is what they told us. My dad,
Oh,
they found
oh,
a bleeding ulcer. And so that
oh,
was one of the reasons why my dad didn't want to eat, but yet when we went there, he was hungry all the time.
Mm.
They said he had a heart attack, a very severe one, but we never saw him on a heart monitor.
Mm. Mm.
So
You
that
see,
vomiting issue that made me ask the question, because my dad on the 25th of March, he was very weak at that stage, gentlemen. He was transferred to Aquarius Convalescent Home because he went there after the previous leg, the first leg was amputated. So they sent him there, but he was so weak. And a couple of hours after arriving at Aquarius, they sent him back. Because then, like your mom, he started vomiting. And shortly thereafter, when he was back at the hospital, they found he developed pneumonia.
sure.
And he developed a bed sore. Also a stand, because there wasn't that turning, because remember my dad had no legs, so he couldn't, he was very weak. So they were supposed to turn him, but they didn't. So he developed a bed sore.
Yes.
So yes, absolutely, I agree with you, gentlemen, because the care is and the communication is lacking.
That is the
And
big
so
thing.
I did a bit of I did a bit of research after what happened to Dad. I started doing research on the hospital. And these complaints about issues like ours that we are chatting about tonight goes as far back as 2016. So now my question is, and this was my question at the hearing of the investigation. So if you have had the same issues for so many years, why has nothing changed?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what that's
So
exactly what
you
I'm saying.
keep on apologizing. You keep on saying how sorry you are for a loved one who has passed, but it is not good enough. It is not good enough. Thank you for that condolences. Thank you, but I cannot accept that because it's been coming on for years. So where do we draw the line?
Yeah. So in my mind,
Something
Janine,
has got to change.
Yeah. So in my mind, Janine, when you state that you are in a hospital, your mortality rate is what determines how good you are. That's in my mind. Your mortality rate.
Yes.
If your mortality rate skyrockets and keeps on increasing, something's wrong.
Yes.
People do pass away. Don't get me wrong. People do pass away of different reasons and different occurrences. Whether it be a car accident, a stabbing, or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you do end up with patients that could have survived but did not due to the using the word incompetence is going to be a bit in your face. But I would say as more like Sam said, is more of the lack of humanity. Man, people have seemed like they've lost the humanity. In this specifically in the health department and the health industry. I know personal friends who are in the health health department, who are nurses, and but they are people with humanity. They've got compassion. They've taken an oath to look after someone who is not well.
That's
but
right.
Then that's one out of, I would literally say that is 1 out of 10, and that's being generous about it. But
committed. Yes.
I believe it has come to a point where people are taking a career, if you want to call it. Let's say it's their career, but there's more to them, like a job. Pay my paycheck. We will always have mense coming in that's going to be sick or that's got ailments or got problems. So I'll just come in and sort them out, and I'll get my paycheck. It doesn't matter. So that type of mindset needs to change. To touch back on the security guard issues, which I feel it irks me, man. But there's one thing I need to say: when security companies are going to be assigning their staff to hospitals specifically, or care facilities, I think those guards need to go through some sort of training of how to interact with people that's going through emotional
That's right.
experience, a bad emotional experience. Instead of having, when you come to a door, they tell you, you can't come in. Where are you going? Who you want to see? Even though you were told by a doctor that you can come and visit at any time
Yes.
because of the situation of
That's right.
the patient. So but in essence, basically, this conversation, I believe, should be going up into the even past the hospital managers. I mean, hospital managers, if I get all of them, they're not even available. This has to go up into the health department heads, the ones that make the decisions and the ones that do put down the processes and protocols that must be in place. And what I would suggest is that those guys at the top should go to the district hospitals unannounced to go and see what's going on. Because that's the only way you're going to see where the big problems are. You can't just say, oh, this big boy is going to come through on Tuesday and everybody's going to sweep clean and make it look nice. But the next day it's again in shambles. So I would suggest that is what needs to be done and needs to be looked at.
Yeah, I just want to read another comment here quickly. There's quite a few people that are telling the same story. Just listen to Ilham. My mother was rushed into hospital, which was Plain District, on the 11th of June. That was last month, 2022. My sister called the ambulance. Within an hour, they arrived. We called the hospital. There was no answer. We took our initiative to go in 7 p.m. My mom was still in trauma. That's almost 8 hours later. Only the evening 10 p.m. she was pushed into a ward. My mom told us that the porter pushed her in the ward. Was dark all night. Staff asleep. So I think what's his meaning there, that the staff was obviously sleeping, and I think this is the problem, David and Janine. We have actually opened up a can of worms now. This has been going on for 6 years. For 6 years. And nothing has been done about this. It is in the papers. I feel strictly like Minister of Health should actually investigate these matters. Yeah, I'm sitting with a letter. Yeah, I have a letter from the Western Cape Health Department. This happened at the other hospital 6 weeks ago. A homeless person was discharged the Thursday on the 9th of June. He was discharged. And the security guard took him out and they left him there. When they came back the next morning, he was found dead at that same spot. So in other words, he wasn't ready to be discharged. It is here in the papers. They actually wrote it here themselves. And this is a matter that I will take further. Now, was it because he was a homeless person? Was it because they wanted the extra bed? Are we really being fair towards the citizens of this country? Is this really what we fought for? Is this really the democracy? Then I rather want to go back to apartheid, because then we had better hospital systems. I was in hospital.
Absolutely.
I was at what's the other hospital? Red Cross. Those places are also shambling. They're falling apart. And for that reason, we should not be happy with what is currently happening.
Yes.
You guys didn't have to go through this. You guys didn't have to experience this. You lost your father. You lost your mother. I lost my mother. If this didn't happen to me, I wouldn't have been able to understand your guys' sorrow.
Yes.
But I feel the same sorrow, and so do thousands of people. The manager of the hospital, I read in the article that we were also featuring in, he said everything is running smoothly. Everything is not running smoothly. There's a problem, sir. There's a problem.
There's a problem.
You need to address the matter.
Yeah,
You know what?
definitely.
I have because I am very well known by a lot of politicians in the area. I've asked Mr. Plain politicians to contact me, take this matter further. That was in February already. This is not something that they would fight for. You know why? Because it is not up in the alley. So for that reason, myself and you and the others should come together. This shouldn't stop here.
Absolutely.
Because, like I said previously, our parents passed away. If I can turn back the clock, I would take money and put my mother into a hospital, a good private hospital. Unfortunately, I can't do that. And many of the people out there can also do that because we don't have money. So we rely on our health system there is currently
Mm.
there is currently actually not working for us.
It's in
It's
chaos.
broken.
It's in
It's
chaos.
broken.
Broken system.
And
Yes.
you know, Stanley, I just want to mention this, that as far as my information goes, and I'm speaking from the point of view of our case currently before the parliamentary committee, that they are busy investigating this because they have received many complaints, especially from Mitchells Plain District Hospital. And so I am saying to the many people who are commenting here, who are sharing their stories tonight with us, thank you for being brave and thank you for giving a voice to your loved ones. And like you said, Stanley, like you rightly said, we have now opened a Pandora's box and we dare not leave it just here and let it end here, because there are many lives to be saved, Stan. There are many people who can still, who should have been alive, like you said, who are not.
Yes.
And there seems to be a trend. It's either people are not being fed, people are treated negligently, people get injured. We've read a couple of comments on your page, Stan, about people who were injured while in the care of the hospital. So, and also lack of medications. So you see, there's a trend, especially with Mitchells Plain District Hospital. And we have to be honest and ask ourselves, where will we allow this to end? Because I've committed, I told my mom, because you know, she's not the same. My dad and her were inseparable.
Yeah.
And because she witnessed firsthand, we witnessed the treatment of my dad. It's very hard for her to kind of bring everything together and mourn the way she should, because there's always that question in her mind. So I will be a voice for whoever needs me to be a voice for them. So anybody, those who are commenting, those who are coming on here, who are sharing, please make yourselves heard. Contact Stan, contact his Facebook page, and just let us know. Let us know, and let us band together, because you know, Stan, you know, David, the truth of the matter is, those who put these measures in place in government, they go abroad for medical care.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right.
They go overseas.
Yes.
Yes.
They do not even trust their own plans that
own.
they implement.
Correct.
Same with the education. They send their kids abroad. Why? Because they know the level of expertise they put in place there, the level of skills they know. That is why they don't even trust their own systems that they put in place.
That's right.
They don't.
Yeah. And
So
that is
we
the
have
sad
to stand
reality.
up as a nation.
That's the sad reality, Janine. They go overseas, they go to their hospitals. Some of them go to Cuba. But
Absolutely.
here we are sitting here
Yes.
and we have to make use. I mean, we're living in such a time, guys. Let me just get into the reality where things are so expensive. We can't afford it, really. Medical aid nowadays for a family will cost you anything between 5,000 Rand and 10,000 and more.
Yes.
So we can't afford that money. An average person, and I posted it earlier on, that works at the shop pays 2,500 to 4,000 Rand a month. So how are you gonna afford a medical aid of 5,000 Rand if your salary is only 2,500 Rand? So by that, the increases in electricity, petrol, all those things makes the cost of living
Absolutely.
expensive. So we have to reach out to our local hospitals so that they can assist us. But unfortunately, they are not up to standard. I think, you know what? The problem that we have is that we must make our voice heard. And if they don't listen to us, and unfortunately, it comes back to politicians, it comes back to politics. We will not vote for them.
Absolutely.
We will not vote for them because that means there will be less people in parliament. Some of them will lose their jobs. But if that is the case, we need to stand up and say, but we had enough. If we're going to continue like this, we're going to lose thousands of our people in the next 4 or 5 years.
Absolutely. And it's not becoming better, it's becoming worse.
No.
Yeah.
And it is the man in the street that is paying the price.
That's
Whether
right.
it's with their life or permanent scars, it is the man in the street who
Yeah.
are
That's right.
paying the price.
I
So
just
yes,
want to read
let's do
this
this.
one comment quickly. I had the operation to remove a boil that developed in the muscle of my bum cheek. After the operation, the nurse told me to remove my own drainage plaster. Wow, and sit in an unclean tub of salt water. I asked for her help as I cannot see what I'm doing. She replied, "No, Sissy, you must do it." That was at Groote Schuur Hospital. Not
Mm.
to mention, I have neuro, and I cannot
Neuropathy.
feel my fingers. I left the bathroom full of blood as I couldn't clean it up. So that is the
Um,
type of stories that we are listening to. Unfortunately, this can't. I mean, guys, like I said, we don't have to do this, but we can't also do it. If we're going to do it, we're going to need the rest of the city
absolutely.
stand with us.
Mm.
Mm,
Let's meet again.
yes.
Let's have a meeting and let's talk. Somebody said, let's have a protest. But this is not going to be possible if only the three of us are going to come out. Everybody
Mm.
needs to make their voices
Mm,
heard. That's the
Yeah.
only way, you know?
yes.
And I mean, guys, from your point of view, the only way that we're going to fix this is if we go to the people in power and we
That's the
keep
one,
them
sir.
accountable.
Absolutely.
That's the
You
only
need to
way.
keep the. You need to.
Absolutely.
The decisions are made at the top, and those are the ones that need to be held accountable. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's exactly what
So
will
then
happen.
we go to the top. We go to the
You must.
top. We take it
You
to the
must
top.
come.
We go there
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's no time for us
No.
to,
No.
to play around
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
anymore. People are
Mm.
losing their lives in our hospitals on a daily
Yes.
basis.
Yes.
And the
You
sad
know,
part is that
people
the sad
are
part is
left
this.
permanently damaged.
That's right. And the sad part is this, Janine and David, there's some family that is currently experiencing what we have experienced,
Mm.
or few families that are
Yes.
experiencing what we
Yes.
have experienced. I mean, guys, this is gonna stay with us. This has damaged us. This is gonna stay with us now for the rest of our life.
Correct.
Now gonna remember this is how my mother passed away because I still see this guy in the emblems, how he is manhandling her. I still see the
Mm.
sister, throwing her around and when I speak to the sister telling her, but you must work properly with her,
Mm.
ignoring me and talking in her language. There is still
Mm.
things that's gonna go with us. And in order for that to stop, it's time for us to say, but we had enough. We're not being
Mm,
ungrateful. We just
yes.
had enough. Because this,
Yeah.
my grandmother passed away in 2005 in the hospital, not outside of this area, and she experienced the same. This has been going on. The manhandling has been going on for many years.
Yeah.
So
And
Yeah.
it's not only Western Cape, Mr. Stan.
yeah,
Stan, it's
Mm,
countrywide. It's our whole country's health system that is it's in its canon, if I can
yeah,
put it like that.
mhm,
It's literally broken. And but yet
yes.
those at the top are getting the big money. They're getting big money, you know.
yes,
Um,
yes,
but it doesn't seem to um, come down to the actual having the resources funded properly. So, like I said,
Absolutely.
it has to be fixed from the top down. The bottom people are trying to do their work, but they also
yeah,
got their hands tied up.
yeah.
Um,
And then
yeah,
I also want to mention there is good staff members at the hospital
Yes.
because
correct.
Yes,
while I was
indeed.
there, also I met
Yes,
two people
indeed.
that actually helped us. That actually
Yes,
said, "Okay, I will let you guys know how it's going during the night
Yes.
while you guys are home." So there
yeah,
is that one or two staff members. Not all of them are
Mm,
as bad. There is I
absolutely.
want to say
Absolutely.
there is
yeah,
those
Absolutely.
people that are. Other thing is this also. While my mother was there was a lot of student doctors, and I think for that reason, student doctors they weren't actually much. They weren't experienced as well. And for that
Mm,
reason, I also found it very difficult because every time we're still waiting for the report, what is wrong with my mother? Up till this day,
yo,
So I think that is the other thing. We have
yeah.
too many student doctors, and we need more of the qualified guys to be there and to look
Yes.
after the guys.
Skilled.
Yes,
Skilled
skilled,
doctors.
yeah.
Skilled.
Yes,
Skilled
yes.
in their field. Absolutely. I agree completely with that. And we
Yeah,
salute all those nurses that are still hardworking and committed. We salute
I
them.
agree.
We want them
Yeah,
to
I
know
agree.
that we
Yeah.
are not just putting everybody in one
Yes.
Was coming
category,
from,
but we
yeah,
do
was
Yeah.
coming from
recognize them
Amoya.
and we do salute them. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
unfortunately, they are a very minute percentage
Yeah.
of what is actually supposed to happen in the
Yeah.
yeah.
hospitals. So
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So yes.
Janine
And
and
like
David.
Zayan
Mhm.
also said now, like Zayan also mentioned, it is not just the loss of the loved one that we have to deal with. It is the trauma. It is the
Mhm.
trauma that like I look at my mom and I see what she's going through, how she is suffering as a result of this. So yes, it is not just the loss of a loved one. What about those patients who have not died but are left permanently scarred, one way or the
Mhm.
other?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
And we are
so
and we are
so
really deal
even
with a lot
their
of trauma.
lives,
Mm-mm. Yes.
absolutely,
Every day is trauma we in the workplace where we live, it just adds up. And be honest with you, I'm fed up. There's certain things
yes,
that must work
fed up.
correctly with people's lives.
Mm,
You can't play with their lives. The just the health system needs to be fixed, and there is no the
absolutely,
only way to fix it is to get qualified staff. And at the moment, we don't have a
yes,
lot of that in our
we don't
hospital
have.
centers. Anything else you guys want to add? We have a minute or two left. Thank you so much for joining me. I think I want to ask that the people please share this live broadcast. But is there anything else that you guys want to add?
From
I
my
just want
side,
to
okay,
motivate. Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
okay, okay. From my side, I just want to ensure that this message gets through to as many people as possible, um, to make people aware of what is actually happening and how to circumvent it, and to ensure that they got the finger on the pulse, if you want to put it in that way, when you have to be admitted to a public hospital.
Mm,
But also that we need to get this message up to the top. We must get it to the top.
mm, mm.
Thank you, Stan.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank
So yes, I also would want to say thank you, Stan. Thank you, David, for allowing me on this platform tonight, Stan, especially. But I want to motivate those who have tuned in tonight and those who will share the live. I
you.
want to motivate them if they have a story to tell about any hospital for that matter,
Mm,
that they need to get in touch with us because
yeah.
there is more power in many voices,
Mm,
and we do not just want to be an echo, we want to
yeah.
be a trumpet out there, and we
That's right.
need them to come on board to be the
Mm,
voices for their loved ones, but not just for them. Like we have committed ourselves here tonight on this platform, David and
mm,
Stan, myself, we want to we have actually now become the voices
yeah.
for the voiceless, for
Mm,
those who have passed on, for those who
mm,
are sitting at home with permanent damage, permanent scars, but also for those who are currently in our state hospitals being
mm.
treated with indignity and negligence. We are the voice for every voiceless person, patient, family member out there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I think, Janine and David, if we have the support of people and we start speaking about these things and we can, put it out there, I think it will also wake these people up because they are playing with
Yes,
people's lives. And for that reason, we need to
absolutely.
support this initiative. And the only way how we're going to do this is when we get together, have that conversation, and start talking about it, because
Mm.
the system is not corrupt, but it's broken. There isn't actually a
Yes,
system, and for that reason we
yes,
need to reach
yes,
out and see how we can make our voices heard. David and Janine, thank you so much.
absolutely.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. I know it's not easy. Tonight when you guys spoke, obviously the emotions came back, and for that reason, myself, I could also relate to you guys. And it was not a nice. It was really not nice, and I don't wish it even on my
Mm,
enemy to go through what I've gone through and
Absolutely.
what you guys have gone through.
Mm.
David and Janine, thank you so much, and we will chat again soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a good
you.
evening.
You too. Thanks.
You
Ladies and gentlemen, that was David and Janine, and they've shared his story with us on the experience at the hospital where their parents, their loved one passed on. And it's not really nice because at the same hospital where their loved one passed on, and I wouldn't have spoken about this, but because my mother also passed away in the same hospital, and for that reason, I need to speak about it. I need to mention it every time so that people know about what's currently happening. And I want you guys to please share this broadcast. It's very important. If you guys feel that you you want this message to get out there, please share it because tomorrow it can be somebody. My mother passed away. David's mother passed away. Janine's father passed away. We don't have to do this because my whole mind was not to revisit this topic as it was too traumatic for me. But with Janine and David, we started this thing where we started going to the papers and we're trying to make this thing blow it up. I even got some people involved that might even do our law for us. That will defend us in such cases. So I want to say this: we don't want to badmouth any hospital itself, but we want to address the matters here at hand, and that is the professionalism. That is the fact that our people are not really being treated as the way they should be treated, and for that reason, we all need to come on board. So if you have my number 066 206 9207 066 066 9207. It's on my page. Please message me tomorrow. Ek gaan nou slaap nou. But tomorrow we can talk about this matter and let's see how we can fight for our people. Like I say, my family members, the last family member yesterday later, I went to go bury him today. That went to a public hospital, and I don't want other people to go through this. We need to become a voice for people. We need to start speaking up for our people. Why must people be in positions that don't belong there? If you can't do your job, get the other job. If you can't face the pressure, get the other job. The same last night as we spoke in our broadcast of last night, SEP's the same thing. You have people that take the jobs for money. They don't do it for the passion. And for that reason, we need to speak up and we need to speak out. And for that reason, also, you guys need to join in this fight against what's currently happening. If you're not going to allow us, if you're not going to speak up for us, and I like to get political here as well. The ANC is messed up. And the DA needs to, because this is the Western Cape, the DA also need to step up and step in and take over and see where they can help people because our people are dying in Cape Town. Our family members passed away in a hospital in Cape Town. So there is a Minister of Health also for the DA. And they need to stand up and find out what went wrong and be the voice of the people. And for that reason, I stand back and say thank you guys and girls for a lovely evening. I'll be back with you guys when Thursday, apparatus via. So ek is nou baie gepraat, baie excited, but also I feel that we must stand together and fight what is currently happening, the injustices that our people are facing. Guys, have a lovely evening, and I'll be back on Thursday, tomorrow night. Cheers.